Dylan Ratigan is running for U.S. Congress in upstate New York, and he's blowing the lid off of how gross and dirty a process it is to try and become a politician in America.
Well, the task of being a congressperson, whether you're serving in our government right now in Washington, D.C., or whether you're a candidate looking to offer yourself as an option as a representative, your job, capital J-O-B, is to hire another person, they call them finance directors, who then literally gives you lists of people, 50 to 100 people per day, that you are supposed to call to persuade to give you money. And if you think that the people that you are calling to give you money don't have some, and it's small amounts of money, and that's it's the dirty secret of American politics is how remarkably cheap it is to buy yourself a politician or two. We're not talking about huge amounts of money, $1,000. $2,000, this sort of thing. And so your entire day is expected in a conventional candidacy to spend your entire day begging for money, going down these lists. And quite honestly, it is one of the most disturbing experiences I've ever had in my entire life. It's something that once I found out we had enough of a budget to run this primary, quite honestly, I backed away from it. It was the most horrifying experience that I've ever had, and not forget my personal relationship with it. It was such a great exposure, Cenk, of what the actual work of being a legislator or a congressperson is in this country. And so while there are so many people, including many people who are in this race here in upstate New York, you mentioned Patrick, there's other great candidates in this race. Emily Martz is incredible. Katie Wilson, incredible. I mean, these are strong candidates. And what you're looking at is people that they have great intentions and great desire to help. They get sucked into a job that is dialing for dollars as opposed to creating relationships, solving problems, or actually enrolling others in creating coalitions to solve the bigger problems that we need to handle. And it's the biggest reason why we have the Congress that we have. It is literally nauseating.
Yeah, it's funny. You almost took the words right out of my mouth. And it's amazing to have someone on the inside running as a candidate to report back to us, in essence, right, on how it actually works in a day. Because when you describe the 50 to 100 calls that you have to make to ask people for money every single day, I thought vomitous.
Vomitous, Cenk. Vomitous beyond comprehension. I lost 15 pounds in the process by virtue of my loss of an appetite and desire to vomit. Fortunately, I didn't do that. But again, we sort of joke about it a little bit, but I am inside of a U.S. congressional race right now, Cenk, and I can tell you not only that our politics are broken, but I can confirm for you that your worst fears about the corrupting influence and the burden of the fundraising combined with the predominant culture of character assassination is something that, sure, it brings out the worst in people, but it's a sort of thing that can be easily restructured through ranked choice voting and through a myriad of campaign finance options that we can discuss at another time. But I don't want to. It's awful, Cenk. It's awful, but we can fix this. And that's not just a campaign slogan. There is proven evidence that moderate reforms like ranked voting and some of the campaign finance items that are already out there are extremely effective at obliterating the value of character assassination and eliminating the predominance of time that's used in fundraising to actually select A, for different leaders, and B, to empower whoever the leaders are to build coalitions and solve problems.
What a disheartening explanation of the way it really works. I mean, that's so wild that's our system. Our system is, oh, you want to run for office? You just got to nonstop raise money. That's what your entire day is spent doing. Pick up the phone, call these people, beg for money. I mean, what a bastardization of what the process should be. And that's why, people have often said about the U.S. that we have what's called a money primary in the U.S. before any other primary, which is, if you want to run for office, the first question is, how much money can you raise? So it's not, hey, what are your ideas? And are they popular? Are they right in line with what the American people want? And, how serious are you? How much of a policy wonk are you? How much of an expert are you? No, it's all How much money can you raise? And that's why it's a system that has been biased massively in favor of the rich, because only people that have a lot of money in the first place and are well connected in the first place really are viewed as serious candidates. So that's why there's a giant establishment bias on both sides of the aisle towards people who are already in that top 1%, people who already have connections. So regular working class people, it's hard for them to get involved. And I mean, now we're seeing that trend change a little bit where we're fighting back out of necessity. But yeah, there are a lot of situations where people who are running for Congress are just barely scraping by. They don't have a good source of income. I mean, Allison Hartson, took a gigantic... She was a teacher, then she took a pay cut to run Wolfpack to try to get money out of politics. Now she's taking no salary running for the Senate, for the U.S. Senate in California. So she's burning through her savings in order to do it. That's why this is hard. This is the first barrier in the way of getting representatives of the people that are willing to actually represent the people. The first barrier is the money primary. And Dylan Ratigan is basically, blowing the whistle here like, hey, look at what's happening. I have to spend all day. It's sickening. It doesn't feel like what I should be doing when I'm running for office. And this is why we need campaign finance reform. Because the only way to fix this is with campaign finance reform. He also brings up ranked choice voting, which is something I agree with, and it's something that's in the Justice Democratic platform, and it's something that all the politicians should fight for, because that flips the incentive, and instead of doing character assassination with other politicians, elites going after, other politicians, they'd have to work together, and they'd have to come to some sort of an agreement, and you can form alliances and stuff like that. So ranked choice voting, but also getting the money out of the system. If we do publicly financed elections by law, well, you don't have to spend all day, every day begging people for money. You can run on the merits of your ideas and policies, which is what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. But the system is so tainted and so grotesque and so polluted with money that, when somebody who actually means well goes through the process, they're like, I can't believe how gross this is. I mean, you're a glorified fundraiser if you're running for office in the United States. So it's time for reform. We have to do it ASAP. And it's a goddamn shame that this isn't an issue that people spend more time talking about, because they just kind of get used to the system, the way it works, and they grow a thick skin and they're like, whatever, I guess this is how it is. No, we can do better. We have to be bold enough to fight to fix this, to make our system better, because that's the only way we're going to actually be able to address the real problems facing this country.